Linda's bedroom smelled like expensive perfume. And death. The big modern bed sat in the middle of the room like a throne. The marble floor shined under the bright ceiling lights. The curtains were thick and costly. Everything in that mansion screamed money. But on the bed, Linda lay still. Her dark skin looked cold under the light. Her eyes were closed. An oxygen mask covered her nose, the clear tube running to a machine by the bedside. Her hands were placed neatly on her chest, like someone had arranged her. A family doctor stood near the door, holding his bag. His face was serious. "I am sorry," the doctor said softly. "She is gone." The room went quiet for half a second. Then, a laugh burst out. Not a cry, not a scream, a laugh. Simon stepped forward in his expensive navy blue suit. He looked at Linda's motionless body, and his lips pulled into a wide smile, like he had just won a prize. Beside him stood Mercy, his mistress, wearing a shining Ankara gown and gold jewelry. Her hair was in a neat bun. She covered her mouth for 1 second, like she wanted to act sad. Then she laughed too. They both laughed, right there, in front of Linda's corpse. Mercy pointed at the bed. "See her?" she said, her voice low and cruel. "Madam CEO, the mighty Linda. She's finally finished." Simon shook his head as if he couldn't believe his luck. "She's gone for good," he said, almost smiling at the doctor like he wanted to celebrate with him too. The doctor looked uncomfortable. He turned his face away like he didn't want to be part of what was happening. Simon moved closer to the bed. He stared at Linda's face like he was checking if she would suddenly blink. Then he leaned toward Mercy, held her hand tightly, and whispered loudly enough for the empty room to hear. "After they bury her tomorrow, we will travel to Maldives next week," Simon said, his eyes shining. "We will do our wedding and honeymoon there. No more hiding, no more pretending." Mercy giggled and squeezed his hand. "Finally," she breathed. "Our dream life." Simon laughed again loudly, like the sound could fill the whole mansion. And in that same moment, something small happened that nobody noticed. A tiny twitch. Linda's finger moved slightly under the bedsheet. But Mercy was too busy smiling. Simon was too busy dreaming. And the doctor had already turned toward the door. Linda was not the kind of woman people ignored. In Lagos, many people knew her name. Linda Okafor, a billionaire CEO. The owner of Okafor Holdings, an empire that touched real estate, tech, and oil services. She built that mansion in Lekki with her own money. She also created a subsidiary company and handed the management to her husband, Simon, because she trusted him. Simon had access to her office, access to the accounts, access to the staff. Linda believed marriage was teamwork. She believed love meant trust. But Simon believed something else. To Simon, Linda was not a wife. She was a ladder, a way up, a rich woman he could use to become powerful. And Mercy. Mercy was the person Simon ran to when Linda was busy building her empire. While Linda traveled for meetings, Mercy traveled to Linda's own home. While Linda signed contracts, Mercy sat in Linda's sitting room and drank Linda's juice. And while Linda got sick, Simon stayed away like it didn't concern him. It started like a simple thing. Linda felt tired one morning. Then she felt dizzy. Then she started coughing. Her chest became tight like someone was pressing it. Her personal assistant begged her to rest. But Linda pushed herself anyway. "I will be fine," she said. "Just bring my laptop." That night, Linda collapsed in her bedroom. The house staff screamed. The cook cried. The security men rushed in, confused and scared. They called the family doctor. The doctor came quickly and treated her. He placed her on oxygen. He checked her heartbeat again and again. Then, after some time, Linda became still. Too still. The doctor checked her pulse. His face became stiff. He looked at the staff and said the words that made everyone freeze. "She is dead." Some workers fell to their knees. Some covered their mouths. One of the maids started shaking like she would faint. "Madam Linda." "No," she whispered. But there was one person missing. Simon. Her husband. The man who should have been the first to run in. The man who should have held her and cried. Simon was nowhere near. He was out with Mercy. Simon arrived late that evening, like someone coming to inspect a building, not someone coming to mourn his wife. He walked into the bedroom with Mercy behind him. Their clothes were too neat. Their faces were too calm. They looked around the room. They saw Linda on the bed. They heard the doctor say, "She is gone." And instead of pain, they smiled. That was how they ended up laughing and pointing at Linda's body. It was like the room turned into a movie where the villains thought they had won. Simon even walked to the side table and picked up Linda's phone. "Look at this," he said, scrolling. "So many calls, so many people begging her. Now they will beg me." Mercy laughed. "Because you are the man now," she said. Simon nodded slowly. "Yes, I am the man now." He turned back to the bed, looked at Linda, and spoke like he was talking to an object. "You were too proud," he said. "You thought money could buy love." Mercy added, "You married the wrong man, Auntie." Then they both laughed again. But Simon was not satisfied with only laughing. Simon wanted everything. He wanted the whole empire. He wanted the company. He wanted the power. He wanted Linda's life. Right there in the same room, with Linda's dead body behind him, Simon pulled out his phone. Mercy watched him, curious. "Who are you calling?" she asked. Simon's eyes went cold. "The accountant." Mercy's smile widened. "Now you're talking." Simon placed the call and walked a few steps away, like the bed could not hear him. The call connected. "Good evening, sir," the accountant said politely, sounding nervous. "I heard about Madam Linda." "Forget that," Simon cut in. "Listen carefully." The accountant went quiet. Simon lowered his voice. "Transfer the entire company money into a private account," he said. Mercy's eyes opened wide with excitement. The accountant stammered. "Sir, all the money?" "Yes," Simon said sharply. "Everything. I will send you the account details now. Do it tonight." There was a pause. "Sir, there are approvals." Simon's voice became dangerous. "Do it, or you lose your job. You know I have full access. You know Madam gave me that." The accountant swallowed hard, even through the phone. "Okay, sir," he said. "I will do it." Simon ended the call and smiled like a hungry person staring at food. Mercy clapped softly. "Simon, you are smart," she whispered. Simon turned toward the bed again, rubbing his hands like he was ready for a feast. "That's it," he said, almost singing. "Tomorrow she is buried. Next week Maldives. And after that, I own everything." Mercy stepped close and leaned into him. "And I become Mrs. Simon Okafor." Simon grinned. "Yes." They stood there, holding hands, already planning their future. Then, a sound. A rough, sharp cough. Mercy froze first. Her smile disappeared like somebody wiped it away. Simon's body locked. Another cough. Louder. The oxygen machine hissed. And slowly, Linda's eyes opened. Simon's hand slipped from Mercy's hand as if it suddenly became hot. Linda's chest rose. Then Linda sat up, right there on the bed, right where they had been laughing. Linda lifted her hand, held the oxygen mask on her nose, and stared at them with calm eyes, eyes that looked like they had seen everything. Simon took a step back. Mercy's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Linda breathed in, then reached up and slowly removed the oxygen mask from her face. Her voice came out quiet, but sharp like a knife. "I am not dead," she said. Simon's knees almost gave way. Mercy started shaking. Linda looked at them, at their fear, at their guilt, at their ugly truth. Then she said the words that made Simon's blood turn cold. "It was a test, and you failed." And just as Simon tried to speak, the bedroom door swung open, and the sound of heavy footsteps rushed in. Police officers. Real ones. Waiting ones. Ready ones. Simon turned, his eyes wild. What is this?" he stammered. Linda's gaze did not move. She pointed at him once, slowly, clearly. "Arrest them," she said. The officers stepped forward, pulling out handcuffs. Mercy screamed. Simon shouted, "Linda, please." But Linda's face stayed hard, because the test was over, and the truth was finally standing in the room. The room went silent after Simon shouted. Everyone froze. Even the police officers stopped moving for a second. Simon's face was pale. His expensive suit suddenly looked too big on him, like it no longer belonged to a powerful man. His hands were already in handcuffs, but his mouth was still dangerous. "You can't arrest me," he yelled, his voice shaking. "She planned this. She planned everything." Linda did not move. She sat upright on the bed, calm, steady, watching him like a judge watches a liar. One of the officers frowned. "Sir, watch your words." Simon ignored him. He turned fully to Linda, panic in his eyes. "You tricked me," he said. "You pretended to die just to destroy me." Linda finally spoke again, her voice low but strong. "No, Simon," she said. "I pretended to die to see who you really are." Mercy started crying loudly. Not gentle crying, not regretful crying. It was the kind of crying people use when they are caught. "I didn't know," Mercy screamed. "I didn't know she was alive. Simon told me she was dead." Linda turned her eyes to Mercy slowly. Her look alone made Mercy's voice break. "You laughed," Linda said quietly. "You mocked me. You planned my burial, you planned my wedding while I was still breathing." Mercy shook her head fast. No, it was Simon. He planned everything." Simon snapped. "Liar. You were happy. You clapped." The officers stepped in between them. "That's enough," the lead officer said. "Both of you will explain everything at the station." As Simon was pushed toward the door, he struggled. "Linda," he shouted. "You loved me. 5 years. You can't do this to me." Linda stood up from the bed now. Her legs were steady. Her strength surprised everyone. "I loved the man I thought you were," she said. "Not the thief, not the liar, not the man who celebrated my death." Simon opened his mouth to beg again. Then the officer pushed him forward. And just like that, Simon was taken out of the mansion in handcuffs, with Mercy crying and begging behind him. The mansion that once echoed with laughter and lies fell into a heavy silence. But Linda did not sit down. She walked slowly to the window and looked outside as the police cars drove away. Her hands were shaking now. The moment was over, and the pain finally arrived. Hours earlier, Linda had known something was wrong long before she collapsed. Not with her body, with her marriage. Simon had changed. He stopped asking about her day, stopped caring when she traveled, stopped touching her hand. Every time she spoke about business, he looked bored, but every time she mentioned money, his eyes lit up. He started spending more time at work, coming home late, smelling like perfume that was not hers. Linda was not foolish. She just hoped she was wrong. But then, one evening, while Simon was in the bathroom, his phone buzzed on the bed. Linda did not want to touch it, but the message popped up. "Mercy, I can't wait until she's finally gone. Then we can live freely." Linda felt like the floor dropped under her feet. She did not cry. She did not scream. She sat down quietly, and she began to think. Linda trusted only one person enough to tell the truth. The family doctor. She called him late that night. "Doctor," she said, her voice calm, "I need your help." The doctor listened as Linda told him everything. The affair, the messages, the fear. The doctor sighed deeply. "Madam," he said, "this is dangerous." "I know," Linda replied, "but I need to know how far he can go." The doctor was silent for a long moment. Then he asked, "Are you sure you want the truth?" Linda closed her eyes. "Yes. That was when the plan was born. They would fake her death. Just long enough. Long enough to hear Simon's real heart. Long enough to catch him in his own words." The doctor warned her again. "Once you do this, there is no turning back." Linda answered, "Some doors must close forever." When Linda collapsed, the pain was real, but not deadly. The oxygen, the stillness, the declaration. It was all part of the test. Hidden cameras were placed in the bedroom earlier that day, quietly, carefully. The police were informed. The company's legal team was ready. Everything was planned. Except one thing. Linda did not expect Simon to be that cruel. She did not expect laughter. She did not expect mocking. She did not expect him to steal from her company while she lay on the bed. As Linda lay still, listening, every word cut her like a blade. "She's gone for good. After they bury her tomorrow. Maldives. Wedding. Transfer the money." Tears slipped into her hair, but she did not move. She needed everything recorded. She needed everything clear. Because love was already dead. What she needed now was justice. The police station was loud that night. Simon sat in a small room, sweating. His hands shook. He kept asking for water. He kept asking for a lawyer. Mercy sat in another room, crying and wiping her face, changing her story every 5 minutes. At the mansion, Linda sat alone in her bedroom. The bed was remade. The oxygen machine removed. Everything looked normal again. But nothing was normal. Her assistant knocked softly and entered. "Madam, are you okay?" Linda nodded slowly. "I will be." The assistant hesitated. "Do you want to rest?" Linda looked around the room, the same room where her husband celebrated her death. "No," she said, "I want to prepare." "For what?" the assistant asked. "For war," Linda answered. Before morning, Linda was already working. Her legal team arrived quietly. Her accountant was called in. The same accountant Simon had threatened. The man was shaking as he entered the office. "Madam, I was forced," he said. "He called me. He ordered me." Linda raised her hand. "Did you transfer the money?" The accountant swallowed. "No, madam, I delayed it. I suspected something." Linda nodded once. "Good." But then her lawyer leaned forward. "Madam," he said carefully, "Simon still has access to some company systems. He may have hidden documents. He may have planned more than we know." Linda's eyes darkened. "How much damage?" she asked. "We don't know yet," the lawyer replied. "But we will find out in court." Court. The word felt heavy. Linda leaned back in her chair. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of trust. All turning into evidence. Simon sat on the cold bench in his cell. The room smelled of sweat and metal. His head was in his hands. "How did I miss it?" he whispered to himself. "How?" He remembered Linda's calm eyes. Her voice. It was a test. Fear wrapped around his chest. He had not just lost his wife. He had lost power, money, freedom. And he knew one thing clearly now. Linda was not finished. The sun rose over Lagos. News spread fast. Billionaire CEO fakes death to expose husband's betrayal. Phones rang. Reporters gathered. By morning, the case was already big. Too big to hide. Linda, dressed in a simple black outfit and prepared to leave the house. As she walked toward the door, her phone rang. She checked the screen. Unknown number. She answered slowly. "Hello." A woman's voice replied. Calm, cold, confident. "Linda Okafor," the voice said. "You don't know me yet, but we need to talk." Linda's fingers tightened around the phone. "Who is this?" she asked. There was a short pause. Then the woman said something that made Linda's heart skip. "I know what Simon did before he married you." The call ended. Linda stood frozen in the doorway. Because the test had revealed betrayal, but the past was about to reveal something even darker. Linda did not sleep that night. The voice on the phone kept replaying in her head. "I know what Simon did before he married you." She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the marble floor, her hands locked together. Outside, Lagos traffic hummed like nothing had changed. But inside her, everything was shaking. At exactly 6 a.m., her phone rang again. Same unknown number. Linda answered this time without hesitation. "Talk," she said. The woman on the other end sighed softly. "My name is Nicole Ade," she said. "I worked at a bank in Abuja 5 years ago. That's where I met Simon." Linda closed her eyes slowly. 5 years ago was the same year Simon entered her life. "Go on," Linda said. "Simon was not poor when he met you," Nicole continued. "But he was desperate. He had debts. Big ones. He stole money from clients' accounts and blamed it on a system error. When the investigation started, he ran." Linda's chest tightened. "Ran where?" "To Lagos," Nicole replied. "And then he met you." Silence filled the line. Linda swallowed hard. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I was one of the people who lost everything," Nicole said. "And because when I saw the news last night, I knew Simon had finally been exposed." Linda ended the call with shaking hands. So Simon had not only married her for money, he had married her to hide. By mid-morning, the courthouse was surrounded. Cameras, journalists, whispers. People pointed as Linda stepped out of her black car, dressed simply but powerfully. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried pain. Inside the courtroom, Simon sat in the dock wearing a plain prison outfit. He looked smaller, weaker. His confidence was gone. Mercy sat behind him, well-dressed, her face innocent, like she had been dragged into trouble by mistake. When Simon saw Linda walk in, his breath caught. Their eyes met. Linda did not look away. The judge entered. Everyone stood. "Court is in session," the clerk announced. The charges were read: fraud, attempted theft, conspiracy, betrayal of trust. Simon's lawyer stood up quickly. "My lord, my client was emotionally distressed. His wife's illness affected his judgment." Linda felt anger rise, but she stayed still. Then Mercy's lawyer stood. "My lord," he said smoothly, "my client was misled. Everything that happened was Simon's idea. Mercy only followed instructions." Mercy nodded sadly, tears already forming. Simon turned sharply. "What?" he whispered angrily. Mercy did not look at him. Linda watched everything quietly. Then the judge spoke. "We will hear from the complainant." Linda stood. The courtroom became silent. She walked forward, her steps steady. "I married Simon out of love," she began. "I trusted him with my company, my home, and my heart. When I fell ill, he did not come home. When I was declared dead, he laughed. He planned my burial, he planned his wedding, and he tried to steal everything I built." Murmurs filled the room. Simon bowed his head. The judge looked at Mercy. "Miss Mercy, what do you say?" Mercy stood up quickly. "My lord, Simon told me his wife was already gone. He said he suffered in that marriage. I was only supporting him." Simon exploded. "That's a lie." "Order!" the judge shouted. Simon's voice cracked. "You said you loved me." Mercy finally turned to him, her face cold. "Love does not go to prison," she said. The courtroom gasped. Linda felt sick, but she also felt something else. Clarity. After hours of arguments, evidence, and recordings from the hidden cameras, the judge returned. "All rise." The courtroom held its breath. "Simon Okafor," the judge said firmly, "you are found guilty. You are sentenced to 15 years imprisonment." Simon collapsed into his seat. Mercy trembled. "As for Mercy," the judge continued, "there is not enough evidence to hold her. She is discharged." Mercy burst into tears of relief. Simon looked up, shocked. "Mercy." She did not turn back. The gavel hit. It was over. Or so it seemed. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded Linda. "How do you feel?" someone shouted. Linda paused and answered honestly, "Broken, but alive." That night, Linda cried for the first time. Not for Simon, for the woman she used to be. In prison, Simon sat alone. The noise, the smells, the regret. He replayed Linda's voice again and again. It was a test. "I loved her," he whispered. But love without honesty was nothing. A new beginning, or another shock. Weeks later, Linda returned to work slowly. One afternoon, her assistant announced a visitor. "Madam, someone named Nicole Ade is here." Linda's heart jumped. Nicole walked in calmly. She was simple, confident, and kind-eyed. "I wanted to meet you face to face," Nicole said. "Not for revenge, for closure." Linda nodded. "Sit." As they talked, Linda felt something unexpected. Peace. But just as Nicole stood to leave, she paused. "There is one more thing," she said carefully. Linda looked up. "Simon hid documents," Nicole said. "Documents that could destroy people more powerful than him." Linda's blood ran cold. "Where are they?" she asked. Nicole met her eyes. "I don't know," she replied, "but someone else is looking for them." A knock sounded on the office door. Linda's assistant rushed in, pale. "Madam," she said urgently, "the police are here again." Linda stood slowly. Because Simon's fall had opened a door, and something darker was about to walk through. The police cars did not use sirens. That was what scared Linda the most. If it was not urgent, if it was not loud, then it was serious. Linda sat quietly in the back seat, her hands folded on her lap. Through the window, Lagos moved on. As usual, people walking, buses shouting, traders calling customers. Life did not stop just because her own world had turned upside down. At the station, Linda was led into a private office. 2 officers waited inside. One was older, with tired eyes. The other was younger and alert. "Madam Linda," the older officer said, "we need to ask you some questions." Linda nodded. "I'm ready." The officer leaned forward. "After Simon's arrest, we searched his office and personal storage. We found signs that he was hiding something. Documents, flash drives, encrypted files." Linda's heart beat faster. "What kind of documents?" "Financial records," the officer replied. And names. Names? Linda repeated. Yes, the younger officer added. Very powerful names. Linda felt cold. So Simon wasn't just stealing from me, she said slowly. He was working with others. The older officer nodded. We believe so. And now that he's in prison, some people are worried. Worried about what? Linda asked. About you, the officer answered. The room went quiet. That evening, Linda returned home with extra security. The mansion no longer felt safe. Every shadow looked suspicious. Every sound made her turn. As she entered her bedroom, she noticed something strange. Her drawer was slightly open. Linda froze. She was sure she had closed it that morning. Slowly, she walked closer and pulled it open. Nothing was missing, but something was different. Her personal documents had been moved. Someone had been there. Her phone rang suddenly, making her jump. It was her lawyer. Linda, he said urgently, we need to talk. Now. They met later that night at his office. He looked worried. I received information today, he said. Simon had partners. Businessmen, politicians, people who don't like exposure. Linda swallowed. And now they think I have the documents. Yes, he replied. Even if you don't, they may not take chances. Linda leaned back slowly. So what do I do? She asked. The lawyer met her eyes. You protect yourself, and you stay alert. In prison, Simon was not sleeping. His cell felt smaller every night. He heard whispers. Other inmates watched him closely. That morning, a guard called his name. Visitor, the guard said. Simon's heart jumped. He was taken to the visiting area. A man he had never seen before sat waiting. Well-dressed, calm, dangerous. Simon Okafor, the man said softly, smiling. You have caused a lot of trouble. Simon's hands shook. I don't know you. The man leaned closer. You know enough, and you hid things you should not have hidden. I don't have anything, Simon lied quickly. The man smiled wider. Then why are people searching for them? Simon's throat went dry. Listen carefully, the man continued. If those documents appear, your sentence will be the least of your problems. Simon whispered, They're not with me. The man stood up. Then pray they are never found. And he walked away. Simon collapsed back into his seat, breathing hard. For the first time, he was afraid of more than prison. Days later, Linda felt exhausted. She barely ate, barely slept. That was when Nicole visited again. You look tired, Nicole said gently. Linda managed a small smile. I feel hunted. Nicole nodded. I know that feeling. They sat quietly for a while. Then Nicole said something Linda did not expect. You are not alone. Linda looked at her. Why are you helping me? Nicole answered honestly. Because Simon hurt many people, and because you chose truth instead of silence. For the first time in weeks, Linda felt warmth, not love, not romance, just understanding. That night, Linda received an envelope under her door. No name, no address. Inside was one thing, a photograph. It was Linda, taken that same day. Outside her office, someone was watching her. Her phone buzzed immediately. Unknown number. She answered with shaking hands. A man's voice spoke calmly. Stop digging, he said, or the next photo won't be harmless. The line went dead. Linda stood still, staring at the photo. Fear rose in her chest. But something else rose too. Strength. She folded the photo carefully and placed it on the table. No more running, she whispered. The next morning, Linda met with the police again. I'm ready to help, she said firmly. Whatever Simon hid, we will find it. The officers exchanged looks. This will put you in danger, one said. Linda nodded. I'm already in danger. As she left the station, her phone rang. This time, the caller ID showed a name. Simon Okafor. Linda stopped walking. She stared at the screen. The man who betrayed her. The man in prison. Calling her. She answered slowly. Linda. Simon's voice came through, broken and urgent. Please, we need to talk. I know where the documents are. Linda's breath caught. Why now? She asked quietly. Simon whispered, because they're coming for you. The call ended. Linda stood frozen in the sunlight. Because the truth she fought for had now turned into a weapon, and the next move could change everything. Linda did not move for a long time after the call ended. People walked past her on the busy street. Cars honked. A bus conductor shouted destinations. Life continued like nothing had happened. But inside Linda, a storm was rising. Simon knew where the documents were, and people were already watching her. That meant one thing. Time was running out. That same evening, Linda agreed to meet Simon, but not alone. The police arranged everything. The meeting would happen inside the prison, under supervision. Simon did not know that officers would be listening. He only knew Linda was coming. When Linda walked into the visiting room, Simon stood up immediately. He looked different. Smaller, thinner. His eyes were tired, filled with regret and fear. "Linda," he said softly. "Thank you for coming." Linda sat across from him. Her face was calm, but her heart was beating fast. "You said you know where the documents are," she said. Simon nodded quickly. "Yes, I hid them before we married. I never thought things would go this far." Linda stared at him. "You ruined lives, Simon, including mine." Simon dropped his head. "I know, and I deserve prison. But those people, they are dangerous. They won't stop until everything is buried, including you." Linda leaned forward slightly. "Where are the documents?" Simon hesitated. Then he spoke. "They are inside a storage unit in Ikeja," he said. "Under my old business name. There's a flash drive hidden inside a false wall panel." The police officers behind the glass exchanged looks. Linda felt a strange mix of emotions. Anger, relief, sadness. "You were willing to let me die," she said quietly. "But now you want to save me." Simon's voice cracked. "I didn't think you would survive. And when I saw you stand up that day, I realized I was not just evil, I was stupid." Linda stood up. "This is the last time we speak," she said. Simon looked up desperately. "Linda," she turned away, because some chapters must end forever. That night, the police moved quickly. The storage unit was found. The false panel was broken. Inside it was the flash drive. And when it was opened, everything changed. The documents were real. Names, transactions, bribes, fraud, people in high places, people who thought they were untouchable. The police did not waste time. Arrests followed. Big ones. By morning, the news exploded. Secret financial network exposed billionaire's husband linked to major crimes. Linda watched the news from her living room, wrapped in a blanket. She felt empty, but she also felt free. The danger slowly faded as the truth came into the light. The watchers disappeared. The calls stopped. For the first time in months, Linda slept through the night. In prison, Simon heard the news from another inmate. "They say your documents brought down big men," the inmate said. Simon closed his eyes. He remembered Linda's calm voice. It was a test, and now it was a lesson. He would spend 15 years behind bars, not just for betrayal, but for greed. Simon finally understood something too late. Love cannot be stolen, and money cannot protect a broken soul. Weeks passed. Linda returned to her company. The board welcomed her with respect. Employees stood when she walked in, not because she was rich, but because she was strong. One afternoon, Nicole visited again. They sat in the garden behind the mansion. "You did the right thing," Nicole said. Linda smiled softly. It didn't feel right at first. Nicole looked at her carefully. "You saved more than yourself." They talked for hours. About pain, about trust, about starting again. Slowly, a friendship grew. Not rushed, not forced, just real. Months later, that friendship became something deeper, something gentle, something honest. Linda did not rush love again. She let it grow naturally. And when she finally smiled without pain, she knew she had healed. 2 years later, Linda stood in a quiet hall, dressed simply, holding Nicole's hand. No cameras, no crowd, just peace. They exchanged vows quietly, not in a mansion, not in luxury, but in truth. Linda looked into Nicole's eyes and felt something she never felt with Simon. Safety. On a quiet evening, Linda sat alone in her office. She looked around at the walls. This building, this company, this life. She had almost lost everything, because she trusted the wrong man. But she had also gained something priceless. Wisdom. She picked up her phone and opened a note she had written to herself months ago. If the truth hurts, let it hurt. It will heal you later. Linda smiled. Outside her window, Lagos lights glowed like stars. She stood up, turned off the light, and walked out of the office. Not as a victim, not as a wife, but as a woman who survived betrayal, faced evil, and chose truth over fear. And that choice saved her life.